Howdy from Texas A&M.
Computers lie, but the wind won't lie.
If your life support systems quit 1 month out into a 6-month journey, you're dead.
They were called weird when they were a kid too, just like me. But we're not weird, we're cool.
Welcome to campus. Welcome to Texas A&M Today. Howdy, and thanks for joining us for another episode. I'm your host, Chelsea Reber, at the Zachary Engineering Education Complex at Texas A&M University. This fall, we've been meeting people who make Texas A&M special. We continue that today as we meet a former NASA astronaut researching how to get Americans to Mars with a little help from our students and a few pieces of high-tech equipment. Later, we'll also tour A&M's own wind tunnel, capable of testing everything from golf clubs to missiles. But first up, when storms strike or heat waves sizzle, meteorologists around the country are hard at work. And whether they're behind the scenes or on TV, there's a good chance you'll be getting your forecast from an Aggie.
You get to put yourself literally at the edge of what Mother Nature and this earth can do, which is take a single little speck, turn it into a cloud, then turn it into a thunderstorm, and then when you got the right ingredients, it just turns it into this monster of a storm that can make a tornado or baseball-sized hail or anything that seems to defy what a normal day is like, right? It's hard to, some people have these big weather events that they're like, this was it. It was this tornado or this hurricane that, that's why I want to be a meteorologist. And some people just really like weather. That's kind of how I am. There wasn't one big event that came up.
They certainly come to us with a fascination about weather that maybe was something that happened when they were 5 years old or 7 years old. A lot of times it's a hurricane for coastal residents. A lot of times it's a tornado.
I think it stems from me being afraid of weather as a kid. And so anytime wind picked up, temperature changed a little bit, anything was out of the norm, I freaked out. And so my mom always was kind of a comfort to me to turn on the TV and see a meteorologist telling me everything's fine, there's nothing going on.
We were visiting some relatives and a tornado warning and the NOAA weather radio going off, and me being kind of freaked out about what that was and then wanting to learn more. I guess I was always somewhat inquisitive, trying to figure out more about something as opposed to kind of not being afraid of it. And I think that's partially why I ended up kind of in weather.
Anybody that's driven past campus has seen the O&M building and the big radar that's on top. So during active weather, students get to go up there, they get to start up the radar, they get to look at the radar data, they get to interpret it, they get to do all those things right there. And then for the broadcasting side, there's what they get to do on the green screen. So, the forecast that goes to KAMU, they do a radio forecast that goes out across, I think, 10 or 16 counties as well. There's so many hands-on things that these students get to do now that even I didn't get to do while I was in school. So what's really cool about A&M is the National Weather Service or the Storm Prediction Center can call up to the meteorology department and say, hey, we need a balloon launch today. And the students get to actually go out, do the whole process themselves, gather that data that is given to, professional forecasters who use that to make sure that we can keep the public safe.
Howdy, Chris. This is Texas A&M. We're looking to do a balloon launch. Do we have clearance? All right, thanks a lot. All right, you've got clearance to launch. And we are green on all 3 screens, so let her rip. 2, 1.
Let it go.
Man, that is racing. We're probably 50 knots at like 950.
Howdy, Brazos Valley. Let's take a look at your Tuesday. We're starting off, it's wet and cold all day long. I always look forward to class, even though I do get nervous. Just thought it was a cool opportunity, something that I've never done, and I'm in the broadcasting club, but I'm a producer, so I'm behind the camera doing all the behind-the-scenes things. So getting to be in front of the camera was really cool. Our program is really small. It's a really tight-knit community, so getting to do things like storm chasing with my classmates who have become my best friends, getting the opportunity to get on the green screen and practice broadcasting, all the different opportunities that A&M has given me to practice this craft, I think has made me love it even more because yes, it's a lot of math, yes, it's a lot of physics, but it's more than that. It's a hands-on major too, and that's something I was looking for. And so it's just a combination of all those things that have made me kind of fall in love with weather.
Everything about the program has changed my life and has made me so much more confident. It's something special about having a group of people that you can relate to and a group of people that grew up in a similar way as you. Like, I just feel so much comfort like in this building because I know that everybody in this building like has similar goals as me, and like they were called weird when they were a kid too, just like me, but we're not weird, we're cool.
What's your average? I'm looking at about an average of about 10, 11 knots here, 11.
Like many fields, there's an expectation that that bachelor's degree means you are ready to do some work. We take very seriously that charge to make sure that graduates are ready to save lives and property.
If we can be the ones to help people plan their day better, help keep people safe when there is danger coming, help people feel more comfortable about living in a certain region as climate may be changing or as things might be evolving, then we have accomplished our goal.
Sure, the weather and the science of it is cool, but essentially you become a meteorologist because you do want to make sure that people know what's coming, know what's happening, right? It's not a perfect science, but we can give you a pretty good idea that, hey, on this day, there's going to be big storms. You need to pay attention because they could be destructive or maybe even deadly.
But coming pretty close, and it's going to be right here. This is the Navasota River.
So I think that is the biggest thing that I look for, and that I think I see in a lot of Aggies as well. It's just that passion to want to help people, because that's essentially what we're doing as meteorologists. No matter where you are in all 50 states, guaranteed that in some way, shape, or form, you're getting a Aggie meteorology forecast.
Next, we're checking out one of the many unique research opportunities for students, A&M's own wind tunnel. We'll see how aerospace engineers study the way air flows over planes and other objects, and how that work is setting up our students for success.
People were really smart 70 years ago. They were able to figure out how to do mechanically and hydraulically what we just throw at a computer and hope it works. I don't think they realize how special and unique this place is. The facility itself is called the Orrin W. Nix Low-Speed Wind Tunnel. For most of its history, it has just been the low-speed wind tunnel. There are only 2 or 3 other tunnels in the country like this, and we really are the only ones that I'm aware of that are so engaged in the educational mission of the school that they're attached to. It was initially completed in the middle 1940s, first operated in the middle or late 40s as just a straight tunnel called an open loop tunnel. It would draw air in from the outside and eject it back outside again. Then in the late 50s, it was closed up into the closed loop. The aerospace engineering department here is one of the oldest in the country. And this place has been here almost since the beginning. Driving by on the street, you would just see a big beige tube. We've had just about everybody you can imagine testing aircraft configurations, both military and civilian or commercial type configurations. There may be up to a dozen students working here, mostly undergraduates, but a few graduate students. In fact, one, Grace, is working on the test with UC Davis and NASA, so she really is in charge of the test. I mean, she's designing how the pieces come together, she's operating the test, setting up the equipment, and the staff here is supporting her, but she is in charge.
I've been here for about a year as a research assistant, and I was here for 3 years as an undergraduate research assistant. A&M has a great engineering program. Once I was at A&M, we have amazing aerospace labs, and that really drew me to the aerospace program in the first place. I do particle image velocimetry research, PIV for short. You fill the tunnel with a seeding particle. I use smoke, and then use a laser to highlight those particles, and then 2 camera flashes to see how the particle moves between the 2 images. A project in particular that I'm working on is UC Davis wing in conjunction with NASA. We're testing a 7-foot wing with high pressure air going through it to see if that could be a good implementation for commercial aircraft.
What we do is try to determine how will an aircraft or a part of an aircraft, a wing or an airfoil section, react to air flowing over it, or vice versa. What will the air do when it encounters this object?
We have a test section, and then the motor that pulls air, and it goes around the circuit, which makes it a lot more efficient. And the circuit expands and contracts to get the air to move a little bit faster. And we can hit speeds of about 200 miles an hour with that setup.
Really hard to determine in flight because it's hard to put sensors near the object. It's hard to get it in exactly the right configurations. But if we have total control over how we position something, what its parts are, and we can attach it using some kind of load measuring system, then we can get all the data we would like to off that in a very controlled setting. We've tested all sorts of things. As aerospace engineers, our favorite are aircraft. A test like that will usually take, short ones maybe a week, long ones may take 8 weeks in the wind tunnel. And for those, we'll work with an outside company or some other entity, and they'll send us design files of what the vehicle looks like. And the staff here and the students who work here will take those design files and scale them down to something that can fit in the wind tunnel. We've had cyclists in the wind tunnel. We've done architectural tests. We've tested lots and lots of offshore oil rigs and drill ships. We work a lot with student teams and clubs. We've had golf club manufacturers come in and test the drag of different drivers. Just about anything that's exposed to wind or that moves through the air is within our ability to test and evaluate. Almost all aerospace engineers work with computer simulations rather than wind tunnels. The wind tunnel provides us an opportunity to very quickly test in real air how a particular shape will perform. We can get a lot of data really quickly, whereas with simulation, you can maybe start getting data faster. You don't often trust it until you can match it up to an experiment. And then it takes you maybe longer to proceed through all the different cases. So we often will do many, many, many more cases than a simulation.
Computers lie, but the wind won't lie. If you're going to put a human inside of it, you want to make sure that you're 100% confident in your results. A wind tunnel is how you actually prove that you're correct. It introduces students to that middle step between actual design and then the aircraft going out to the fleet, whether it's commercial or military. Most students, myself included, didn't know test engineering was that middle step. Now, if they go to designing or if they go to flight test engineering or they go to that last step, they'll know what happens in between and they'll have experience with it. I hope to be in between that stages of designing and actually having that plan go out, if that's flight test or wind tunnel testing, somewhere with a big company like that.
The thing that's made me happy over the last decade is just seeing the number of students who come through here and knowing that in the aerospace engineering curriculum, really every single year students are interacting with us. This place had really been a little bit separate from the rest of the department, and one of the things I'm really proud of is how we've been able to pull this facility, the Nix Tunnel, back into the educational mission of the school and really get a lot more student involvement.
If 200 miles per hour isn't enough for some tests, engineers can reduce the size of the tunnel to bring the wind speed up to about 300 miles an hour. That's almost twice as fast as a Category 5 hurricane. Before we go to our final segment, we have a special edition of Aggie Facts for you, and it's quite a hoot. The year was 1917. A&M defeated Rice in a basketball game in Houston. Amidst the joy of victory, Aggie cadets stole Rice's mascot, a 6-foot-tall, 200-pound canvas owl. They ceremonially inducted it into the Corps, gave it the rank of general, and shipped it back to College Station via train. The owl went to chapel and lectures and watched the cadets march in review. Within days, Rice students formed the Owl Protective Association and hired 2 detectives to find the bird. One of them posed as a reporter, writing a story about the owl napping, and stumbled on the only 4 Aggies who knew where the owl was: the 3rd floor of the Armory, the most secure building on campus. Alerted by telegram, Rice students drove up in the middle of the night to break in. They drew the attention of several watchmen, but ran away and returned multiple times. Finally, 5 Rice football players rammed the door open, got their owl, and drove away. They got as far as Milliken and Navasota before their cars broke down. At least 800 cadets chased after them, taking over Navasota. Cadets had complete control of all telephone and telegraph lines, blockaded all roads, and stopped all passing trains. Knowing the bird would likely be captured, the Rice students burned its sawdust stuffing and kept the canvas skin. It took a few days of hiding and sneaking, but 4 students were able to avoid capture, hitch a ride, and triumphantly get their mascot back home. 13 other students weren't so lucky. They were held at A&M until Rice's president got involved. By the way, the detective Rice students hired named the owl Sammy. That's been the name of their mascot ever since. Next, we're off to the final frontier. Dr. Bonnie Dunbar flew on 5 space shuttle missions. Now she's researching how to improve the lives of astronauts during long future trips to Mars. Let's see how A&M is playing a significant part.
I could look at the stars at night at 9 because I lived in a very rural area with no night lights. Sputnik was launched when I was 8, and that was all that you heard on the radio. Reading H.G. Wells, Jules Verne, even watching the science fiction TV shows. That's what captivated me. It's not easy to describe. Exploration, whether it's space or deep sea diving,
Close the hatch thermal cover.
people who become enamored with that and excited about it have the same level of passion. I didn't say logically, I have a plan, I picked that. It kind of picked me. The return to the moon is called the Artemis program. The moon is going to be our next Antarctica research base. The moon is about 3.5 days away, and the front face of the moon always faces us. So if you've got a base there, it's always a direct line. And if you had an emergency, you could be back here in 3.5 days. Mars is a lot different. Mars is in an orbit way out there. If your life support systems quit 1 month out into a 6-month journey, you're dead. If we can learn to operate in the lunar environment, in that extreme environment, and design systems, including spacesuits, then we can extrapolate that, reduce the risk of going to Mars.
You'll click to start the sequence and these light panels will turn on, and I'll be doing a calibration sequence. My dad was able to get me out of school to go see the last space shuttle launch of Discovery back in 2011. Since then, I knew that space is where I wanted to be and to work, and it's where I got really involved in all my STEM classes and started my own projects through high school and undergrad. My research is focused on predicting suit fit performance using computer modeling and finite element analysis. I'm really motivated to figure out the best way to fabricate and engineer spacesuits that work best for humans so that we don't minimize any of an astronaut's existing performance. What truly makes it unique working with her is that how much experience that she brings to the table that many of these other researchers don't have direct data points for.
Five missions, 50 days in space. What was critical is those were 5 missions. So the longest mission was 13 days, the shortest 7 days. It was long enough to see the short-term effects of vestibular changes. So, you kind of sway a little bit until you become reacclimated to Earth's gravity. We can't get less than 1G here. But on a centrifuge, if you're prone, we can use centripetal force to create an artificial lunar and Mars gravity. NASA then built what's called a short-arm centrifuge. It was now in storage at the Johnson Space Center. We talked about bringing this centrifuge back into operation in the state of Texas. NASA gifted A&M the entire $2.2 million centrifuge facility. A&M and NASA and KBR have teamed together, and we're going to have a world-class facility.
It is rare, and having a centrifuge here is such a huge asset for us, for not only for us as scientists and the ones who will be operating it, but also for Texas A&M. Will be the only one with these capabilities in the United States. So really put us up front in this investigation of what's happening in human spaceflight when we want to go to the moon and go to Mars. There are lots of unanswered questions about what's the right way to do it, what's the right countermeasures to keep our astronauts healthy during all this trip. So here, really, it's really a unique facility to answer some of these questions.
We're so used to living on Earth. We've evolved over millions of years to be perfectly adapted to Earth and 1G conditions. Almost every system of the body is affected by spaceflight in some way. But over those really long duration missions to Mars, that's where all those effects are going to start adding up, and you're potentially going to see an increased number of medical emergencies. Most people have probably been to the fairgrounds, and a lot of people might have seen one of those rides where you spin around really fast and you stick to the wall. So imagine a scientific version of that, but you're lying down. So you're lying down horizontally on your back, but you're spinning around. So the sensation is lying down, but almost like you're standing up because you're getting pushed outwards.
We have a couple of NASA-funded projects that will be executing on the centrifuge. So external investigators or even NASA, in collaboration with NASA, will be able to host external teams to come and do their research using our centrifuge here.
1, 0.
0.
Release. And liftoff. As the countdown to Mars continues, the perseverance of humanity launching the next generation.
After we have a base on the moon, part of the Artemis program, and we're flying crews to the moon, and we're thinking about, the nation's thinking about going to Mars in 2035. We want to be one of those top 10 universities, just like MIT was during Apollo, that people look to be part of the future.
Even if it's as low as 10% chance, just to put in a number out there, it's worth giving it a shot.
We have ignition, and we have liftoff of NASA's Genesis spacecraft.
It's just a explorer's nature to want to go do that, even though the risk might be pretty great. You just kind of have to bite the bullet and just take a chance.
Everything continues to look good.
You're doing it all for the greater pursuit of knowledge. As long as there is a chance, then it's worth going.
Picking up a little bit as we go through the wind shears and encounter the transonic buffet.
level's still looking good, and we've just went supersonic.
NASA's latest goal is to put humans on Mars sometime in the 2030s or 40s. China hopes to do it in 2033, and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk has hinted at a crewed mission as early as 2029. Next, I caught up with a Texas A&M difference maker for a one-on-one conversation. Today, that's Interim Vice Chancellor and Dean of Engineering, Dr. John E. Hurtado. He received his master's and PhD in aerospace engineering from A&M and has been back in Aggie land teaching and researching since 2001. You have patents on some of your robotic algorithms, and they're part of a permanent collection at the Smithsonian. How did that come about?
It was an interesting project where we built 36 of these sugar cubed size robots, and each robot was on its own. It was totally autonomous. It could compute by itself, it could decide by itself, it could communicate with the other 35 robots. And the algorithms that we developed were to make them, or enable them rather, to cooperate and solve a problem that one on its own would not be able to solve. And so it was very innovative work. And I got to see those robots at the Smithsonian behind the scenes. They're in a cabinet because my daughter interned at the Smithsonian, 25 years later.
What should people expect when hypersonic testing begins at RELIS?
What we are building out there is called the Ballistic Aero Optics and Materials Range, the BAM. This will be the largest facility of its type in the country. So it will be able to test projectiles achieving hypersonic speeds, so Mach 5 or greater. It will also be able to conduct tests in directed energy, high energy laser directed systems. And thirdly, it will be able to test impacts of high energy projectiles upon materials to see how they behave. All very fascinating, and so in one range you get to test three very different types of science and engineering.
You work here in the beautiful Zachary building. What do you look forward to when you come to work every day?
It is a great environment to come to work. It's a great environment for our students to study. I look at each day, I prepare the night before, I do my homework, and I look at each day, and I look forward to getting that day's job done. I look forward to working with a really strong team. And I try to take time out of each day to walk the hallway just to see the students. I think it's why we are here. If I didn't want to be here with students, I'd still be at a national lab.
And there are some people who are afraid that Texas A&M is growing too much and that it might dilute the degree, the education. What is your message to those people?
There is no dilution in what our students are receiving. There is no hesitation for industry and labs to come here and recruit our students. I look at it as it's an opportunity. We are providing more opportunity to more students than ever before, and I'm excited about that.
Thank you so much for joining us today. You can watch an extended version of this interview on our website. Thanks for watching today's episode of Texas A&M Today. Our first season continues in 2 weeks, and we hope you'll join us.